Ha. All right, I'm just going live. Oh, there's like 6 people waiting just because we skipped a week and a half of shows. I didn't even update the name of the. It just says Geek Nights Live Thursday. I'll fix that later. Okay.
There's a free music in Astoria Park tonight at 8.
Oh, there's free music almost every weekend night in the Gantries Plaza too. It's big and open.
Oh yeah, we were. So on Amanda's birthday, I was like, "Where do you want to eat?" And she was like, "I want the Hivino, but we can't eat inside there."
Yep.
So we went to the Hivino, and I ordered. I walked in and I made an order for takeout. We only had to wait outside literally like 5 minutes, and they're just like, "Here you go."
And then eat it in the park.
Then we went to the Gantries Park, and it was they have the live music there is on Tuesday. So there was a giant mariachi and a shit ton of people out on Tuesday. we ate the Hivino in the grass.
Not bad. There's also
there's the parking lot one. I think that's Fridays, the parking lot one.
The one by Plaxall?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also like there's like new restaurants and outdoor bars and stuff over there too. Like there's a bunch of stuff that came in.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the Glacier Park looks like one of the other restaurants is gearing toward opening up.
Does Casa Enrique have an outside?
Yeah, we ate there last night for dinner, actually. They have a big outside. Okay. We did eat out there last night. The key is to go like right when they open for dinner or kind of too late, and just don't go between like 6:45 and 8, or there'll be like a multi-hour wait.
We're going to the beach tomorrow, so.
We might do Saturday. I can't just suddenly take off work tomorrow.
That's a shame.
It's going to be like 100 on Saturday. All right, anyway, let's start the show. We're already live. There's listeners listening. I haven't even kicked off the show yet.
It's going to be the weather. The weather I'm looking at has identical reports for Friday and Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, they're close. It keeps changing. I mean, that storm that came through just now was not predicted.
I didn't see that coming.
Nope.
It's like, what?
Well, suddenly I get an alert on my phone, and it's like, seek shelter immediately, 1.5-inch hail. And I'm like, what the fuck?
I'll have an umbrella at the beach.
All right. It's Thursday, July 21st, 2022. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight we are talking about zoos. So, something that I didn't quite like it. Obviously, logically, this was gonna happen someday, but I never actually like really thought about when it would happen. Like it was something that just did not cross my mind that it even would ever actually happen. I did not actively plan for it, but right before we took a week off because a bunch of us went to a private beach house in Wildwood to beach and somehow not get sunburned. But right before that, I shaved. Like you do. And then I thought, you know what? I should get a new blade out and like replace it and bring it to the shore with me because I would like to stay somewhat shaven at the beach so I don't get too hot. And then I go and I've realized the blade I had just discarded was the last of the gigantic fucking box of blades that I bought when we first moved to New York City in 2009.
I mean, I have a giant symbol. You're using them you're probably changing them too often. How many times do you use one blade?
15 to 20.
Oh, that's actually way too many times to use one blade. You're supposed to use them like 6 to.
That is true.
Times.
However, my shaving patterns have changed a lot over the years because I kept growing a beard and for a while now.
I was about to shame you for being uneconomical, but you're being overly economical. Or you're lying, which is not, out of the realm.
The thing is, I went through blades faster when I would shave my whole face and when I didn't use clippers, and I've done all sorts of different stuff. But for a while now, since I did the beard, I pretty much only have to shave like one part of my neck and not even that often.
Yeah. Well, how many blades were in your mega pack of blades?
1,000? 2,000?
What? No, the math doesn't work out for 15 shaves, 1,000 blades.
Yeah, the thing is, I tried to find
15. Even if you shaved every day, if you use a one blade 15 times and you have 1,000, that'd be 15,000 days. in years, which would be 41 years. So no, you either weren't shaving, you didn't have 1,000 blades, or you didn't use each one 50.
Yeah, well, the tricky part was right before the show, I went to my Amazon to find like the thing I'd actually ordered, and the receipt in my email just says like bulk package feather blades. And if I click on the link to it, it takes me to an Amazon not available. So I had to buy.
I have a package of 100 blades, and it cost me like $9. And
I definitely got way bigger than that. So let me see what I just bought.
I bought it 4 years ago, and I've only used like maybe 3 or 4 of the packages that are 5 blades each. So I've used maybe a quarter at most about of the 100 blades, I'd say.
Yep. So this time, I'm pretty sure I bought the same thing you're talking about, because what I bought now was a pack of 100 feather double-edged blades, and it's like
They're in little packs of 5.
Yep.
They're all.
And it's like
crammed into it, yeah.
It's like one skinny little thing. It's clearly the kind of thing that you would like buy and put in by the cash register of your drugstore and sell.
Yes, that is what it is.
That is what I have bought now.
I have the same thing.
So
only different brand.
So now I realize that the other thing I need to replace is I have this little plastic bin that whenever I use up a blade, I'm not gonna do this because I think it would be dangerous. It's pretty big, but if I open it, I could theoretically count how many blades are in that fucking thing.
Yeah, but I can guarantee you it's not 1,000.
I can guarantee I would cut myself.
Yes.
It is not.
It's bad enough to have a computer mouse that looks like a pile of razor blades. It's an actual pile of razor blades.
Literal pile of actual used razor blades.
Name that Pokemon. Pile of razor blades.
I don't think I can fit many more blades in that thing either, so I bought a new one of those too.
Close to
It is like I had to shove the most recent blade in, and it barely went in. If you shake it, it's just like a lump. So, yeah, I remember way back when we started shaving the right way, we did an episode on it on December 15th, 2005. And I don't even know how much money I've saved over the years by not using, like, cartridge razors since we made that call. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, in the news, I don't know, the planet is burning. I don't know how much more urgency people who know this is happening can express upon the world, but climate change is rapidly reaching tipping points of extreme consequences, even in industrialized, previously falsely safe places like London. This heat wave is one of the worst heat waves in modern history in some places, and it's only getting worse. I think I saw there were so many fires in London caused just by the high heat, because it's literally never been this hot before, that the city is low-key shutting down. Like, trains aren't running, data centers are failing. It's kind of ridiculous.
I mean, the thing still stands. It's like, okay, people now can no longer deny that climate action must be taken, right? But nobody, even leftist people who want to, like, do environmental stuff, right? People are still not willing, and the only way you're going to escape is if massive numbers of people actually drastically change their overall lifestyle,
which requires state action.
The life you live, right? You're going to have to change things about the life you live, right? You're going to have to maybe live somewhere else, not use cars, not live without air conditioning. You're going to have to do all these things.
Well, actually, the opposite is going to happen. Air conditioning will literally be necessary to live in a large percentage of the habitable parts of the earth.
People might have to, move out of parts of the world.
Oh, no, but I'm saying there aren't places. The air conditioning is already necessary for life in many areas that are not able to be depopulated.
I mean, no one lives in the Sahara. I mean, very few people live in the Sahara Desert. It's a desert.
But even worse, this could actually be rapidly mitigated, mostly by regulating industries.
Yeah, they're good. That's part of the drastic change in life, is that we're going to have to shut down certain industries and be like, sorry, this entire industry is ruining the world, and it has not the net benefits are not positive considering the damage you're doing. Yep. And therefore everyone's going to have to do without whatever that industry produces and find another way to live. And you know what? That's the solution. At least because we've waited so long, that's the solution, right?
Yep. But even then,
nobody's gonna do that.
Even then, the U.S. government,
lifestyles.
the U.S. government, which has some of the most control over this of any nation on Earth, in effect, also failed to take even basic action because, once again, in our Senate, one jackass voted against it and filibustered the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, even if the U.S. was like run by me, right, and I banned cars, how much would that like delay the global climate change? Even if I had done it 10 years ago, 15 years ago, right? It's like all the other countries are still doing what they're gonna do.
Yeah, but at the same time,
you would need a Scott to run like all the big countries, right? China, Russia, Europe, European Union, India.
Well, the problem is up
Brazil.
until now, a lot of the interventions wouldn't have been that drastic and could have been done within the existing political framework. And we even have buy-in from a lot of the countries that contribute to this. But of course, for a lot of reasons, humans waited and waited and waited way too long. And now we're in this almost worse situation where people have gone from it's not happening to it's happening and there's literally nothing we can ever do. So fuck everything. Like the doomers and the nihilists are replacing the activists.
Mm.
Well, I don't know what to do about it because we have no influence over our non-democratic government here in the U.S.
I have even less influence over other countries' governments.
Yep. And
there's no world government.
like, I don't know. Is this? I feel like it's gonna take climate riots and mass displacements. Like,
well, I mean, there'll be riots, but it's like, even if the riots succeed in like, say, overthrowing a government, right? And it's like, congrats. It's like, it's like you're in charge now, but the problem is unfixable.
There's that Kyrgyzstan video that shows a lot of statistics that if you just reduce the red meat industry to 10% of what it is today, that would actually get us most of the way toward the targets needed to start reversing this.
Ban it.
Yeah, probably should.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. A real lifestyle change. Like, there is no McDonald's, or McDonald's doesn't have beef at all.
Yep.
Right. Or, it's like, your significant changes to the way we go about life or what is required. Like things that you will notice and will impact you in a way that will make most people unhappy, right? But this is the choice now, right? Is it unhappiness A or unhappiness B, right? It's like, would you rather never have no cars allowed and no beef ever, right? It's just gone. It's not a product anymore. You can't buy it.
Yep.
There's no cow farms. Ranchers out of business. Sorry. McDonald's, burger joints, all out of business or open or serve something else, right? It's like, big economic devastation for them. Or all those things stay open, but it's 110 degrees out.
Yeah. I think what's really interesting to me is
choose one.
how few people actually realized what this was going to look like. Like a lot of people just seem to think it would get hotter.
Al Gore did with his video.
They seem to not realize that it's not just it gets hotter. It's that the climate and weather get radically less stable and predictable. Like today in New York City, a storm that was not in any way predicted suddenly appeared. We had 1.5-inch hail. That is hail the size of a ping pong ball.
I didn't see any of the hail.
I didn't see that.
The hail, but I didn't see any out the window.
That was reported on the news. We got some pictures.
There was a heavy rain though.
Yep. There was also 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and it rolled through in the span of 20 minutes and it was gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's, New York still seems to have a winter. It snowed at least a little bit, right?
Yep.
There was some snowing going on at least once.
Well, in fact, we've had more extreme winters, too. There was more snowfall at some of the ski mountains than there is historically.
Well, but it's not, the winter's short. It's not as, I haven't seen one of the mega winters in a while.
What I have seen is our summer is getting split.
Not in like a decade or so.
What we really don't have anymore in New York City is the spring. We sort of have, spring turns into, the rainy summer, we have a monsoon summer and then a dry summer. We have different eras of summer now.
Regardless, right? The summer that we have now is a lot like tropical island, or Florida.
Yeah.
which I'm not complaining about because I like that, but it's bad.
Well, I'm complaining about it in one sense. I mean, I enjoy the heat, but also because I cannot change that temperature, I can still enjoy that temperature while I'm in it before it eventually kills me.
Mm.
So yeah, that's heartening. In exactly opposite sentiment news, there was this story, and you got to read all the details. I'll link to the Times of India, but there's an NPR article, there's a Twitter thread, there's even a video about it. But best I can tell, there was a group of people in a village in India who
I saw this, yeah.
basically put on their own online fake stream of the Indian Premier League, which is one of those cricket leagues. They ran this like not even at the same time as the real one, and they ran an illegal betting operation via Telegram where people overseas could illegally bet on IPL. But the double twist was the people were illegally betting on an illegal fake IPL. So not only were they betting illegally, but they were not betting on the actual sport. They were betting on a bunch of villagers making a fake live stream and rigging what was happening in the game while they were taking votes in near real time.
So imagine if I went to the public park where there's a baseball field, and I got 18 friends together, and we all dressed up as, the Mets and the Yankees, right?
Yep.
We went and bought jerseys and uniforms and equipment and everything.
And we get a camera like with a close-in angle so you see the players, but like you don't see anything else.
We got a bunch of cameras, and we had a broadcaster doing broadcasting, and we had some graphics, and we pretended, right, so that if you looked at the camera and you never see the stands because there are no stands, and you just only see the field, and we zoom in to people's faces a lot. And it's like if the people watching didn't actually know anything about baseball other than that there is a baseball, there is a Mets and a Yankees, right? It's like it could be convincing, especially with I'm capable of 4K live streaming. We could convince somebody who doesn't know anything about baseball that like they're watching a real Mets Yankees game. It's possible to do that with technology that's available off the shelf. So if the other people don't know better, and the other people are gamblers, yes, it is entirely feasible. You could convince them to bet on a game, but that game is just you and your friends reenact. Basically, they're betting on a reenactment, right?
Yep.
And then we can enact whatever we like in order to make them lose their bets and take their money.
So this is all just amazing. And of course, this is only in the news because apparently they got caught. But my hat is off to that amazing con. That is very much the kind of thing I want to do in Blades in the Dark in our next session. Rig the ghost races.
I wonder, right? It's like, there's plenty of people doing war reenactments, medieval historical reenactments.
Ooh, like reenact the 1947 World Series or something?
Right. It's like, are there sports reenactors? There must be, right? I've never seen one, but there must be sports reenactors out there somewhere.
Like play the game semi for real, but like make sure the box score matches the historical box score and any notable incidents still happen.
I think, yes and no, right? But I think part of the problem is that, a sports reenactment like would at some point requires, feats of strength, right? That the reenactors may not be capable
There probably aren't enough. Like, to be a Civil War reenactor, you need to have a costume and be able to walk forward slowly.
Let's reenact the first time a figure skater did a triple axel at the Olympics. Okay, who here can do a triple axel? Anybody? It's like nobody.
Right? Like, how many Harlem Globetrotters can you find for a sport to be able to, like, miss a critical bat, like get struck out at a critical moment with a special kind of curveball that was like part of the story of that year? Like, you're not going to pull that off.
Let's reenact the time that Shaq dunked over. It's like, we got any Shaqs to spare?
Board game reenactment. Let's play T&E, but we'll play it so that Scott wins because it was the famous game that Scott won in '08.
Let's just reenact that game over and over. We don't need to play a real T&E. Let's just reenact that one. We can't beat that one. We'll never play a better game of T&E than that. Let's just do that one again.
All right.
Esports reenactment.
It's interesting because with esports, people just watch the replays, and I remember a friend of ours
Same thing with regular sports. You can watch replays.
Well, I remember a friend of ours years ago got a DVD box set that was basically an entire season of their particular baseball team, and they were just watching that season, like from beginning to end over the course of a month. Which I guess if I was way deeper into hockey, like I could see rewatching like a particularly good Stanley Cup playoff series. So I don't think we need reenactments since we record sports directly in a way that we've never recorded war.
Sports that happen prior to recording.
True.
Right.
Of course, at that point, is it reenactment or do you just make a movie, like hire actors and just film it like a movie?
No, that's what reenactment is. Civil War reenactors don't have video of the battle.
Yep. No, but I'm saying the way you would do a sports reenactment is do it like you would make like if you're doing reenacting a baseball game, you do a baseball movie and you just make it the way Hollywood would make a movie about baseball. They don't have that many professional baseballers playing a full game. They just fake it all.
Anyway.
The other way I see most people reenacting, then we can get into the rest of the show, is they'll take more modern sports games and set up the players the right way and just let it play the old game and see how closely it matches up to the real game. And that's actually really popular. All right, put a little marker there. But anyway, things of the day. So I don't really mountain bike anymore. COVID wasn't the only thing that got in my way. Being 40 got in my way too. But I do still really like mountain biking. And there's a race that looks so fun. On one hand, I would like to be in this race at least once. This is moderately within my abilities. But on the other hand, the time frame I have left where something even close to this is even remotely safe, considering that I'm already 40, is narrowing rapidly to the point that there is no chance I will ever do this. But it is called the MEGAVALANCHE. And it is an all-start race, or a mass start race, meaning like 1,000 people all start from a starting line simultaneously.
That's
and
dangerous.
It takes like 40 minutes to get to the bottom. It is a race in the Alps at a ski resort on mountain bikes. You start at the top in snow, and then by the bottom, you're in dirt. And this video, my thing of the day, is someone winning this thing with full commentary, start to finish, 43 minutes, 37 seconds. This is amazing to watch. It's just really chill and fun. And yeah,
after you get away from the 1,000 people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it looks like the first bit of the race requires a lot of stamina and like it's difficult, not in a mountain biking way, but more in just can you run up this hill with your bike? Can you actually bike on snow? And that seems to spread everyone out real far before they hit the single track parts. This just looks
How do you
so.
know which way to go? Is it like can't you just go? The goal is to just get to the bottom, however you can get down there.
It looks like there's markers. I think people practice the run, like they know the route. There's other people. Like I don't know all the details and logistics.
Must be a way to get to the top without walking, because 40 minutes downhill is
you realize the way
a cable car or something.
So when I would mountain bike, what you do is it's ski resorts and you just bring your mountain bike on the ski lift. They usually have special things you can attach your bikes to.
Okay.
You just take a ski lift to the top.
Ski lift. It got to be cable car instead. Right?
I mean, well, this one would probably be a gondola, but even small mountains often have little gondolas. So anyway, I would love to do this, especially because the course, but for the aspect of racing and but for the aspect of there's 1,000 other people like doing it. The course itself, this is not like that dangerous if you don't do anything stupid and don't try to go crazy fast and win the race. Just biking down this on a modern mountain bike for fun would actually be pretty safe. And I can't actually find references of anyone ever dying in this race.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not trying to go fast and there's not a lot of people that might run into you or that you'll run into.
Yep.
And you have a very modern bike, that has like lots of
not a single. You definitely don't want a hardtail. You'd want to do this on a full suspension bike.
Yeah, it's like, and it's like, yeah, you could just sort of go.
But long segments of it are,
and you got decent, quality brakes. It's like you'll make it to the bottom.
Yep, long segments of this are like
gas might hurt.
Are very much the easy. Like I would consider them. I would actually say they're an easy mountain biking trail. They're only hard because these people are trying to do them as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you got?
What did I have?
How have you forgotten?
All right, I remember now. So, Wikipedia is a website that we use every damn day for all kinds of shit, right?
Yep.
Needs no explanation. And it's also well known that there are a lot of people who try to vandalize Wikipedia, right? Some of them are just vandals, the same reason people vandalize everything. But, because Wikipedia is treated by many people as like a trusted source of information, if you can successfully put false information on Wikipedia, then you can convince a lot of people that something is true if they don't bother to check the sources or anything, right? And you can make fake sources right? So there are a lot of people out there who have there's how many billions of people? There's people out there who have really specific agendas for something. And for whatever reason, some of those people attempt to vandalize Wikipedia in a specific way, especially on the non-English Wikipedias, which have a lot smaller communities maintaining and defending them.
Yep.
So on Wikipedia, there is a page called Long-Term Abuse, and it is a record of basically all the people who are not just Wikipedia vandals. That would be a list, ridiculously long. These are people who they stick with it, right? They keep on trying to vandalize Wikipedia in a specific way for a specific reason, and they keep doing it. Like they have not given up. They keep evading bans, getting new IP addresses. Like they are try-harding. They're trying so hard that Wikipedia gave these people their own page.
Yeah.
And some of the stories of these people are so specific and hilarious, right? Right at the top, there's the Bambi one, right? Bambi Fan 101 focuses on Disney articles, claims to be a young boy in the southern U.S. with a professed love of juvenile-themed movies. So there's someone out there who is like, they just want to they want to control the Disney message on
Billy North
Wikipedia.
Adds fictitious individual Clutch Khan to associated acts or former member fields of info boxes for alternative rock and blues artists. He just goes to small-time bands and adds this fake name to them, and that's it.
But it's not just that they do that. That's funny. Right?
Yeah.
But they keep doing it. They get banned. They go to try to get new IP addresses and new accounts and new whatever to keep doing it. They've not given up. Like any chance they get, they go.
That guy I just mentioned has been banned.
Wi-Fi at a hotel. They got a different IP address. They make a sock puppet and they get to it. They're like, all right, it's Clutch Con time. Let's go. Right? They get banned. They go, to their friend's house. They go at it again. It's like they've been doing this over a long period. It's like, really? They just don't give up. And that's what makes it notable.
It's interesting that this would be someone's hobby. It's funny because I expected, scrolling down this list when you first called my attention to this page, it would mostly be people who have a very specific political agenda, they're doing it for some purpose. But a lot of these just seem completely nonsensical.
Yeah, like Motorsports and Japan LTA, right? Pro-Japanese, anti-Korean edits. That's not surprising. A lot of the edits are people with nationalist or racist, ideas or whatever, right? Trying to promote one side over the other, but they only do it in the topic area of motorsports. They're also guilty of edit warring and disparaging others' knowledge of the English language. All right.
Yep, it is actually kind of amazing that Wikipedia is as relatively stable and reliable as it is. I long ago stopped interacting with the editor community. I just don't have time for that anymore. But it has come a long way. But now the body of documentation on how Wikipedia gets managed by the people who dedicate themselves to doing this has far outstripped the time I have left in my life to read words to read it all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In the meta moment, the GeekNights Book Club book is Binti. It's a really, really short book. We're going to read it.
Someone told me that it was very, very short. And I'm like, well, Rim, did you know that when you selected it?
I did, because it's part of a trilogy and I'm going to read all three. So
is all three the book club
No,
selection?
we'll just read the first one. I think we'll have enough to say about it. I think it'll be
a really short book club book. All
yeah.
right.
I think it'll be a good a palate cleanser, a little bit of an appetizer. Also, it won a bunch of awards: the Hugo and the Nebula for best
I'm
novella.
just saying, when something's real short, it's sort of like, all right, is it even a novel? I feel like it's to be a book club book, it should be a novel, not a novella.
Oh, so you're saying
no matter how great.
all right. So for the next book club book, I will pick something that is definitely a long novel.
It doesn't
Perhaps
have to be a long
I mean,
novel.
it could be around counts and an island, like Monte Cristo, something.
Novels have a very wide range, right?
Should I pick another epic?
I think that we should have it's like we do have a word for novella and a word for novel.
Yep.
Right? We should maybe have a word for big novel that we can use to like separate those out of the, right?
But this thing is about space college, which is a topic that is near and dear to Geek Nights. We love the shit out of a They Were 11 style. There's some fancy university in space, galactic whatever. So I figured we should read this. And if you do still think this was too short and you have complaints about that, I will restore the median length of books in my next book club pick, is all I'm saying.
I think that Genji already restored the median length.
In some other news, I will be live on Sunday at PAX West 2022 without Scott I'm rewriting a talk I gave a long time ago by myself at PAX Australia. I have a lot more to say, and I got a whole different thing. The panel on Sunday, September 4th, 12:30 p.m. in the Sasquatch Theater will be losing.
Okay.
Gonna talk about losing.
The website is moving along. You know, on the one hand, my new job is only 4 days a week. Like, it's Thursday. I'm not working tomorrow.
All
That's
right.
just how it is. You know? Going to the beach. But, yeah, I'm going to the beach. So can't really work on the website at the beach. So
I mean, beach is a fair excuse for not doing pretty much anything. So,
you know, also the other thing is when you work 4 days a week, right? It's like I actually have work to do. It's a new job, first of all. You'd hope they wouldn't hire me with nothing for me to do.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm actually filling all the work hours with work. You know, moving right along with that. You know, it's like, I guess, you know, usually I don't care too much about keeping or impressing my employer or anything, but I don't want to lose the 4 day a week job.
Yep.
Or have them believe that he's not very productive with the 4 days. He's got to go do 5 days. We want more. We need 20%
Well, plus,
more work.
I will definitely say that anytime I've started a new job, like when I got my first project, the novelty alone actually gets me to work way harder.
No.
I mean, at least my job, every job I've taken has had radical shifts in the amount of novelty or the type of work that I do, to the point that at least the first month is always like a really exciting roller coaster. And then I get bored and jaded like I always do.
Regardless, you know, I didn't, you know, I made a bunch of progress in my time off between the jobs, but, you know, I didn't get over the finish line. We'll get there. You know,
I'm pretty excited about it.
Anyway, it'll happen eventually. You know, who knows? Next year, right? Who knows? Yeah, that's all the real meta that's going on over here.
All right. So we got actually a decent amount of Thursday ideas of weird topics we've never covered somehow over all these years. We always have our backup plan of pick a food item, but we're rapidly running out of food items we can talk about. But somehow we have talked about amusement parks, but we haven't talked about other kinds of parks. So we're going to today talk about zoos or zoological gardens or animal parks or menageries.
Yep. I mean, you know, I think the first thing that comes to most people's minds when you talk about a zoo, right, is the animal welfare aspect. Right?
There is a wide range of animal welfare statuses of zoos, ranging from actually doing for real impressive conservation work with animals all the way down to this place should be shut down and everyone involved in it should be in jail and the animals probably have to be euthanized.
Yep. I mean, historically speaking, I feel like, you know, basically all zoos, not even a century ago, right? You know, like 20th century, like there was a time, you know, maybe, even within my life, I've seen some places that should be shut down, right?
Yep.
It's like, mid 20th century, I guess, like within our lifetimes is when basically zoos stopped basically being 100% bad.
Yeah.
Right? Like they were.
I mean, olden times it was like the king's got a bunch of tigers in cages.
Yep.
Hooray!
They were just, well, that's a menagerie, but
that is a menagerie. That's where zoos came from. I'm reading the same Wikipedia article. I assume
animals, and you're putting them in cages for the amusement of people and not treating the animals well, not knowing how to treat the animals well, not really caring as long as the people were amused, right, and entertained by being able to get close to an animal that normally would be, it's like even before video, it's like you could never someone talked about a tiger. You saw maybe a photo of a tiger.
Oh my God. Remember that ancient thing of the day where a tiger's skin or a lion's skin had been sent somewhere in Europe as a gift, and the taxidermist was tasked with filling it out to make it look like a real lion again. And they had no idea what a lion was supposed to look like, and the results were equal parts delightful and terrifying.
Yep. And it's like, lions don't live where you live. So it's like you will just never see one and then people made zoos for amusement purposes because like, wow, that's a in the time where it's like, there wasn't TV, movies, video games, internet. It's like seeing a live lion, that ranks pretty high up there in the entertainment level.
Yep.
Right up there with intentional train crashes.
But
that's where the zoo came from. But then people over time, I guess, realized, hey, this isn't great. This is the opposite of great. And some portion of the zoos, either shut down, which I guess is good, or B, change their behavior to being about helping the animals and still having them out for entertainment purposes. But that was just, to get money to help the animals, right, from the spectators.
Yep. So we're really only going to talk about like modern zoos that we've interacted with or that people like you would interact with, because if you want to know the full history, there is a very long Wikipedia article that I'm skimming through right now as part of Geek Nights, as those of you on the stream could see. But
we're going to do aquariums because we need another episode.
Oh yeah, we do. Plus, I have different opinions on them and different anecdotes and different thoughts because I know kids get taken to zoos. Like, that's the thing. And I have a lot of very strong and foundational memories as a child of going to the Detroit Zoo, which
I've been to many zoos and zoo-like things.
We would go to that zoo several times a year because that was just a thing the family would do. It was a fun day to hang out at the zoo. There's a lot going on at the zoo. As kids, on one hand, we were excited to go to the zoo, but on the other hand, we always tried to convince our parents to take us to Cedar Point instead. Kids.
Well,
but
there's combos like Busch Gardens. Right?
Yeah.
Or it seems like a lot of amusement parks have like some sort of safari thing, combo. Right?
Yep. Cedar Point had
Disney's got one, right?
I don't know if it still does, but it had a giant aquarium inside the park that we used to go to. That was just free. It was just like part of the park. Like if you're on roller coasters, there's a gigantic, legit aquarium just there.
Mm-hmm.
But the zoo was interesting because part of it was seeing the animals, but as a kid, at least, part of it, I was always just very fascinated with, like, the operations of a zoo. Like, how do you make a zoo and how does it work? And, like, how do they get into the enclosures and how do they keep the animals from escaping? And as a kid, I was always really fascinated by that kind of stuff. And I was always trying to, like, see behind the scenes. And, like, that was just a focus of what I would pay attention to as a kid. I also kind of wanted to pet the animals, and it's a good thing that adults and fences prevented me from doing so, or I would have.
Mm-hmm.
But as I get older, I didn't really go to zoos a lot because of, they're a mixed bag, and not all of them have great animal welfare. And I think the first big zoo I went to again, like as an adult, was actually when you and I were in Australia, and we went
to the Australia Zoo.
We went to that zoo in Melbourne, and we spent like an entire day there taking photos.
It was like, it was a few hours. I don't know if it was the whole day.
We spent most of the day there. It wasn't open that long.
It was several hours.
I want to say that zoo closed at like 3. Like it was GTFO time and we had to get out. We got shooed out of the gift shop at the end because they were shutting up.
I mean, we went to every part of that zoo that they had, right?
Yeah. But it was a good time. But it was, that zoo trip was particularly notable, like for me, because one, we went to a zoo that had animals that aren't in a lot of American zoos. Like, there was a very different zoo experience. And two,
I think that if you go to a small zoo, right, it's going to have just local type animals. If you go to a bigger zoo, it'll have, some, exotic or animals from parts far away, or animals that are more difficult to take care of or difficult to acquire, right? And then the mega big zoo, you get like San Diego Zoo. It's got like fucking everything from around the world.
oh, how about that? The Melbourne Zoo is one of the few zoos that has like a picture on the front of the Wikipedia article.
Okay.
It's one of the bigger zoos.
That is a thing, though, is like if you can go to a smaller zoo in a different place, and now you'll see animals that might be hard to see at the zoo where you live, right? But they just got those animals, easy over there.
Yep. It's always like sometimes you see animals that are perfectly happy. Like you see a zoo and like there's a zebra and the zebra's actually like exhibiting happy zebra behaviors and seems like pretty happy and at least reasonably comfortable. But then you see like the bear who's clearly having mental health issues because he's bored and trapped in a shitty zoo.
Mm-hmm.
And as a kid, that definitely colored my opinions of zoos because a lot of zoos I saw were not great as a kid. And I guess unlike a lot of other families, my mom was an expert in animal welfare, so she would point these behaviors out to us as kids. And I think that really, really impacted how I view zoos in my entire life after that.
Well, I think even if you don't know about animal welfare, looking at the animals, I think it's like you can just sort of tell, like, you look at, say, the enclosure an animal is in, and you can tell, like, it's not well kept, or, right? It's like it doesn't take a genius to be like, wow, nobody's cleaning that water those penguins are in. Look how dirty it is.
Yep. Or that, I can't read kangaroo body language, but that kangaroo looks extremely bored.
Or why is that monkey banging his head on the wall?
Yep. And there's actually a fantastic lecture I saw a while ago that I think about a lot because it has a very quotable moment where it talks about how, on one hand, we as humans cannot anthropomorphize every animal we interact with because they are very different intelligences. They're very different beings. Like, humans often project their own deal onto other things. I mean, look at how many people get weird about the Roomba that dies and have an emotional attachment to it or something. So, on one hand, it's very easy for a human to drastically misunderstand an animal when they project. Case in point, the monkey's smiling at me. He must be happy. But on the other hand, this lecture made a very good point about how animals are individuals and have a sense of self-identity, and we do have lots of direct evidence of this. And while we can't anthropomorphize, at the same time, the most powerful starting point we have to understand what an animal's thinking is by anthropomorphizing them to a degree, because since we're an individual and they're an individual, our first best guess as to why they're doing something is the most obvious answer. Like all those things that came around Twitter about a year ago where people were like, wait, do bears just like hang out and watch the sunset? And the answer appears to be that yes, sometimes bears will just like scoop out a little area, like sit down and get comfy and just stare out over the mountains and watch the sunset just like a human would. And
it's the most exciting thing they got to see. They don't got TV. They don't got video games, right?
And plus, I'm an evolved monkey with both TV and video games, and sometimes I'll just go sit and stare out over a sunset.
Yeah. So.
But
all right. So let's you
zoo
want
anecdotes?
some zoos?
All right. Honestly, the Melbourne Zoo is the best zoo I ever been to.
It's a pretty good zoo. It might be the best zoo I've ever been to.
I think that is.
It was an excellent zoo.
Just it had the exhibits were varied. The animals looked very well cared for. It was very educational. It did not have any of the weird like. It is surprising how much pseudoscientific racist nonsense is embedded in zoos all over the world. Even if it's not intentional in current day, it's because the exhibit was designed in like the 1910s and they haven't updated it. But there wasn't a lot of that there. Every person we encountered who was staff, if we asked a question, they knew and they were just happy that we were talking to them and would overshare. Like, it was an overall pretty good experience.
Yeah.
Trying to think of the worst zoo I've ever been to.
I've been to a lot of New York zoos, right? So in New York City, there's a few zoos, right? Mostly the Bronx Zoo is the big one, but there's also a Central Park Zoo
Yep.
and a Queens. There's a zoo in Queens. and they're all actually owned. They're all run by the same organization, right? They're all basically the same zoo, just with multiple locations. I don't know if they have more locations than those 3. They might. I'm just not aware of them. I haven't been to the Bronx Zoo in many years. I could go basically whenever I wanted, but I'm mad at the Bronx Zoo.
Nah.
So when I was real young, we went to the Bronx Zoo.
Ooh, a grudge.
Yeah, right. And when I was young and I went to the Bronx Zoo, I bought this snow globe there, and then it was a big deal later in life because that turned out to be like a rare snow globe that among the snow globe peoples. So I have a memory of that. But then I went to the Bronx Zoo again, and a little bit later, it's good. They got like all kind. The Bronx Zoo, at least when I went to it the second time, and I was older and I have a better memory of it. And they were no longer selling the snow globe. It has all kinds of different sections, for all the different kinds of animals. And, unlike, I'd say, like the Melbourne one, it was sort of a circle shape, like you walk around to get everything.
More importantly, you would naturally get to each exhibit. Like it subtly guided you on the best path.
Like Stu Leonard's, basically, where you go in a circle, right, from beginning to end. The Bronx Zoo, from what I remember of it, is that it's more of a go wherever you want kind of deal, like an amusement park, like go here, go there, right? And it has some really notable parts of it, right? Like the monkey house, the fact that they have the guts to call it the monkey house. Like, I think they might have changed the name of it. I'm not sure.
The monkey maison.
I don't know what they call it now, but it has some good animals there. But my favorite part of the Bronx Zoo, which is also my mother's favorite part, was the aptly named House of Darkness. They literally had a House of Darkness.
Which is some of my favorite.
I'm wrong. It was called World of Darkness.
Ooh.
Yeah. Anyway, it was basically off onto the side of the zoo. It was in the zoo, but not in the main path. It was this building with no windows and like one like double-doored entrance, and inside it was dark, and in there were all nocturnal animals, right? And I presume that they, when the animals went to sleep, which they basically had these animals reversed, right? They would be up, they would be night in the building during zoo hours, right? And then when the people left, I think, I'm not 100% sure, I just assumed this, that they would turn on the lights and the animals would sleep.
Seeing like little fruit bats eating watermelon in places like that is just an absolute treasure.
Right. So they had all kinds of snakes and reptiles, and even underwater they had smaller aquarium tanks. I think I might have seen an electric eel in there. Things that lived in the deep sea where it's dark, right?
Yeah.
Any animal that lives where it's dark was in the world of darkness. Right. And then in between, granted, it was a long period of time, but in between when I went to the Bronx Zoo last, which might have been high school, last millennium, and now, I feel like it was still quite a while ago, maybe a decade ago or more, they closed the World of Darkness. They were like, nope, we're done with that. And I'm like, what the hell? That was the best part of the zoo and you closed it? All right. I don't need... But I haven't been to the Central Park Zoo because... Why?
Yeah.
I don't feel a compulsion to go there, but I have been to the Queen Zoo, which is a tiny little zoo out by, in Corona Park, out near, City Field and whatnot. And it's just a little zoo. And, this one, you walk around in a circle, right? But it won't take you very long at all. And, they got, mostly not very exciting animals, right? More normal animals. They got like a farm/petting zoo, like across the street. And that's, cow, sheep, pig, that kind of stuff, right? But in the zoo area, it's like, I think they've got like brown bear, right? And it's like, okay, they got an eagle. It's like, all right. They got a big dome aviary thing with birds in there.
Those are I love the bird parts, especially the bigger the enclosure is and the more free the birds are.
Yeah, it's real big. It's like a big geodesic, kind of enclosure thing. But the most exciting, like the highlight of that zoo is they got a whole sea lion thing. It's like the largest part of the zoo by far. And it's like every few hours or so, they feed the sea lion. And it's like, sea lions. Or it's like, or manatees or whatever. I don't know which ones they are. I think it's sea lions. I don't know if there's even a difference.
I just have this vague
like
memory
that.
as a kid at the Detroit Zoo of all the animals I wanted to see were always asleep and hiding every time we went.
Yep. Nope. This zoo, they're not hiding. And basically they bring the sea lions out on a schedule. And as long as, if you go to the zoo, it's like you're going to see it at least once, no matter what.
Nah.
And it's like that's like the main event at the Queen Zoo is the feeding of the sea lion. But the hidden main event is they got this tiny little enclosure, right? And you might think, oh, what animal's in the tiny enclosure? That's not cool. It's this special kind of deer. It's the world's tiniest deer.
Oh, those little guys.
It's the world's tiniest deer variety. And it's just like this like really cute, really tiny deer hanging out in there. It's like, you could miss it easily if you don't go and look for it off in the corner. But it's like, you don't see that thing pretty often. Like, it's like an animal. It's like, it's one thing to go to a zoo and see an animal that, you don't see often, right? Like, it's in person, right? Like, let's say you go see penguin. It's like, a penguin exists. You might not see them that often in person unless you live in the south bottom of the world, right? But you know what a penguin is, so it still has some excitement, but not incredible excitement. But it's like, I bet you didn't even know that tiny deer existed. It's like, and there it is, live walking around. You never even heard of this thing. It's like, I think that's what I like the most about a zoo is when you see an animal you didn't even know was an animal. It's almost like meeting an alien kind of deal.
Well, especially if it's a zoo that's well designed to where you can sort of observe them doing mostly natural behaviors, like they don't even know you're there, is the best. When we were in Japan, the last time Emily and I were in Japan, we went to the zoo, and I just remember for a while I was looking down at this monkey enclosure, and there was a little monkey, and he was really working on like trying to make something with a stick, like. There was definitely some attempt at crafting happening down there, and it was just fascinating to watch. But that zoo also had the traditional petting zoo of here is a pile of guinea pigs that kids are allowed to manhandle that frankly just has to be banned. Like that is just kids hurting little guys.
Yep, that's not good.
Like a lot of petting zoos, at least most American petting zoos get it right in that it's animals that kids are unlikely to be able to hurt in any way. But I'm not a fan of the let kids manhandle guinea pigs thing.
Yeah, no. So I mean, where I grew up, there was a farm. Was it kind of a zoo?
Yeah.
I think it's still there. It's called Silverman's Farm.
We had something similar. You'd go and like as a kid, feed some goats and feed a horse.
You get your pumpkins, you get your apple cider
Yep.
there, right? But they had farm animals there, goats, sheep, goose. I think they had, when I was a kid, they had a peacock, just one. I don't know if it's still there, right? Farm animals. These are animals that are being taken care of as a livestock farm setting. Bunch of chickens in a coop, right? And there's just there's a wire fence. You can't really get at the animals, right? You can't, but they would let you put a quarter in like a little vending machine. But instead of gumballs, like food came out, and then you would hold your hand up to the fence, and the animals would all lick the food out of your hand, right? So it's like you couldn't really mess with the animals so much, right? And I guess that was okay.
Yeah.
Right?
So actually, a pleasantly.
There was another place, right? The Catskill Game Farm, which has a long and storied history I won't get into. But we went there when I was a kid, and that was basically like, it's called Catskill Game Farm, but it was like a petting zoo, not too many exotic animals, right? Mostly the same kind of farm animals, but basically they're just all over. You could just mess with them.
We actually had a pleasant surprise because the last time I was in Australia with Emily, we were hiking in the Blue Mountains, and then it rained on like the last day, so we couldn't do the last hike safely. So we just headed back to the city early. And on the way, we see this giant like animal exhibit place, and we figured we'll go see like what's the deal with this place. Is this going to be one of those bad places? Like what's the deal?
Yep.
And we roll in, and it was actually surprisingly better for the animals than we expected, and ended up being a pretty good experience. Like we go in, and it's mostly like the equivalent of what you just described, but for Australia. So it's a lot of wallabies and quokkas and dingoes and like animals that are just common in Australia.
But
and
we did go to that other place in Australia to see the koalas, and that wasn't really a zoo.
It was a preserve.
It was like, Yeah, it was like a preserve, and it's like they just happen to have a walkway. It's like, this is where koalas live. We'll make a walkway so that you can walk around and see them sleeping 90% of the day.
I like places like that a lot because that's where a zoo is serving more of its conservation mission, while also teaching people about the animals and letting them see them, but without like messing with the animals. So there's a lot more going on.
Animals and bringing them far away to some other place that they don't belong, and putting them in a box of some kind. It's like you just go to where the animal is. It's like you know.
That's also where I learned that you can keep koalas from in or out into, or trap them in or keep them out of a place with a wall that's about a foot tall.
Like people, I know, like pretty much everyone who ever goes to Costa Rica goes to like see the sloths, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're going to where the sloth is. It's like I've seen sloths in zoos here, but it's like,
well, like
meet the sloth where he lives.
Well, like to see all the flying foxes in Australia, I didn't even go anywhere in particular. I just went to Centennial Park. There's one tree that a whole colony of them lives in, and just walk over there and you just get right up to them. They're just right there. Everyone knows. No one messes with them. It's not even official. It's just that's where they live, and it's super cool. But
Castle Game Farm has been closed for quite a while. I think it was for sale. It might still be for sale. Someone tried to renovate it into a hotel unsuccessfully, and I think lost a lot of money on it last I heard, and that's why they're trying to sell it. But I don't think they're going to be able to recoup their investment. They're going to have to just realize they made a bad investment. But yeah, it's a good thing that place shut down. But it was not a great place for the animals.
But that place we went to in Australia, in the end, the thing I thought was nice about it is the kangaroos and wallabies and a lot of the animals just wandering around, and you can just interact with them. And they had hay dispensers, like basically hay in a ice cream cone without the ice cream, so you could just feed them if they wanted it. But all the animals that were able to be interacted with humans, there were little ropes, and they had all these signs everywhere that basically said, if an animal goes behind these ropes, you can't fuck with them. Like, leave them alone. So an animal that was done with your shit had a very easy way to get away from you and avoid human entanglement if they didn't want to deal with it. And it seemed like that system for those kinds of animals actually worked pretty well.
Yeah, if the animal is an animal that, like learns, right, that's a place where there's no people, and if it wants to interact, right, the animal will learn that, right? A dog can learn that super easily. Right? A lot of other animals can learn that as well. Then it's like, and that's actually probably not a bad system to set up for a pet if you have one either, right? I think the only problem might be that if you have like let's say you have a dog, if it's sick, it might hide in there to.
We do that. Like Moogie has his tunnel that he sleeps in. But dogs, often you have a crate, because you need to be able to get a dog in a crate if you got to take him to like the vet or something. So the crate is like the safe space. Like the contract is, listen, dog, I will only fuck with you in the crate if it's an emergency. So you are safe in there unless you're going to the vet.
Yep. So I think that's the thing animals learn, that like that's, sort of naturally. You don't even really need to like maybe train them.
I remember the first year, it was the 4th of July when we had it, when
set up a place, put them in it, and then don't go in there.
When we got Miles as a puppy, the first year there were fireworks that he was like around for. The first firework went off and he was in that crate and even pulled the door shut and hid in there until they stopped.
Yep. That's how it's going to be.
But I think zoos and things like them are pretty important, because a lot of humans, especially in places like the US, don't seem to ever really interact with animals. Like, a lot of people don't even have pets, don't know people who have pets, and I think there's a certain amount of human empathy that can only really be learned by interacting with animals, if nothing else, to instill the sense of awe. Like, a tiger exists, but imagine if you'd never seen a tiger in person, and you don't give a shit about animals, and then you go to a zoo one day, and you actually see how big a tiger actually is in real life, up close. And if you somehow have never seen a tiger,
you see it move. Right?
They're so much bigger than you realize, and you see them move their arm, like their paw or their foot even a little bit, and you see those gigantic muscles. You see them roar or fight or do something. I think that sense of awe and wonder is important to get humans to care even the tiniest bit about the natural world.
Yeah, and you wonder what it would be like to see a dinosaur, right? It's like seeing an elephant ain't too much different. It's a big animal. It's like
and it's sort of a delicate balance of,
anymore.
On one hand, this is likely worse for the animals than just being wild. But on the other hand, making sure some percentage of humans care at all about animals is probably more important to the welfare of the rest of the animals long term than the discomfort of the small number of animals that are almost sacrificed to the zoo. Of course, zoos need to have strong regulations to where that sacrifice has to be minimized as much as possible.
Well, I think if zoos hadn't existed historically for bad reasons, that they wouldn't have come into existence.
I think they
later.
would have in a different form, but I think they are going to be a major part of how we convince humans to care at all about climate change.
Right. Well, I do think that's the thing is that,
Also, zoos are places that study animals for research purposes to know how to
Right.
better help them adapt to climate
you
change.
don't need to let people go to those if the
Yep.
public can, right? That's the real thing. It's like,
Or
yeah,
you let
we can
people
do
in-
a lot of the functions that zoos serve, right? Like all the zoos that, get the pandas to mate so that there are
Yep.
still pandas, even though pandas don't seem to want there to be pandas anymore.
Yep. And I read a fascinating thing that
You don't need to let the public just have access to it, even for a price. That could just be a private facility that employees
But
go to, and that's
I
it.
think some of the best hybrid models are places where their primary mission is that, but their mission is also outreach. And then, like, they let people can come in to observe those practices and see some representation of the animals, but not necessarily in the open format amusement park style of a lot of zoos. There's also, the animal ambassadors of, like, you find the one wolf who's, like, weirdly cool with people, and you basically just use them, like, bring them to schools, let people interact with them. Like, they're the ambassador for their species to the people who need that to be convinced to care, which is a thing. Kind of like pets. Like, there's pros and cons to allowing humans to have pets, but in the end, people who have pets demonstrably are more likely to demonstrate empathy in their adult lives than people who don't. There's lots of quality of life and, like, human learning aspects. So it's a very nuanced topic that we are not experts enough to talk about too much further. So zoos are a mixed bag, and I think will continue to be a mixed bag, but I think their importance is actually only going to grow as their mission changes due to climate
There
change.
also might be animals that, it's like right now, there's some animals, right, where it's like, maybe they grew up in captivity or something and they can't survive in the wild for whatever reason, right? So it's like, rather than let the animal go extinct, right? It's like a zoo is where it can actually live. Sadly, that's the only choice, right?
Yep.
But I think with climate change and also other reasons, habitat destruction, burning rainforest.
Well, there's a balance.
et cetera,
Some
et cetera.
species we can help to repopulate or help survive. Other species just will not be able to live in the world that we've made.
Right. We're making it. There are other people who are making a shitty world, and as a side effect, eliminating some animal species, and it's like that animal species is better off in the wild, but some other fucker destroyed the wild, and now there is no wild anymore for that particular animal. So the animal can either live in the zoo or not live because of that other piece of shit that did that.
Well, that lecture that talks about, the whole, the like watching an animal and thinking and just intuitively understand, like, oh, that rabbit's frustrated because he's trying to get under the bed and you've blocked it off, and he's mad at you because he saw you block it off, and he's frustrated and looking for, like, your first best guess at their behavior. He had the bit at the end, he mostly talked about how, like, the question is, are humans compassionate enough and also brave enough to actually make a world that we can share with animals, or are we just going to keep destroying everything?
Hopefully aliens will come and put humans in the zoo.
Yeah, we're really speed running the lead up to the Bell riots in Star Trek right now, except I don't think Vulcans are going to show up and cause us to cease warring with each other anytime soon.
But I'm saying, you think about it this way, right? So, on the one hand, it's like all our climate damaging is going to kill humans. If somebody came and put us in a zoo, right? It's like the same way the pandas go in the zoo. It's like, oh, thanks, aliens, for helping. It's like, yeah, we live in a zoo. We don't like it. There's no internet in there.
Yep.
But at least there's still humans. It's like, I would if the choice is be extinct on Earth or be in the alien zoo, right? I'm not going to.
I mean, it might be the shitty alien zoo.
Right. Oh, sure. But I'm not going to be hypocritical and be like, yeah, it's better for the animal to go in the human zoo.
Yep. Of course,
It's
at
like,
the same time,
it's also acceptable for the human to go in the alien zoo.
if aliens found Earth, they might be like, well, bacteria clearly rule this planet. Bacteria.
Aliens.
Bacteria have made these giant structures to house them and move them around.
Yes. The aliens perhaps are bacteria.
We're studying one of the bacteria skyscrapers, and it made a weird noise when we cut it open. I wonder what that was all about.
I mean, it is possible that like we've been visited by aliens that are just 5-celled organisms or something. Who knows what they are?
So yeah, zoos, mixed bag. I have good memories of going to some, bad memories of going to others. I think they serve an important place in the world, but their mission needs to evolve.
I'll probably go to one again someday.
You know where I absolutely want to go back specifically? I do want to go back to Phillip Island and see those fairy penguins again. That was a really fun night.
Yeah.
Well, partly because
I wonder if there's a one of those type of things, just a different animal somewhere else.
Yes, there absolutely are.
Right. So I'd rather go to one of those than see an animal I saw already.
Yeah, I want to go out. We got a lot of fun looking at the bats at night and seeing all their business when they get active.
Yeah.
But there are tours in places like Australia to do that for all sorts of animals. In fact, Scott, you want to go upstate and camp at the wolf sanctuary? We're thinking about going with Red and some other people too.
I will say this, though. I think I said this in 2012 when we, did an episode about PAX Australia that we went to. But, we did the penguin thing. We paid for the deluxe penguin experience, right?
Yep.
Up until that point in my life, I've always paid for standard experience of everything, right? Why it always felt like a ripoff to pay more to get the deluxe.
Well, the difference between the regular, the premium, and then the special thing we did, one, the price wasn't that different, and two, the experience
the price was that different. We just had money finally.
True, but the difference in what you get was they were completely different things. They would be all right, you can play Counter-Strike, or for $100 more, we're going to give you airsoft guns. We're going to do it for real in this giant warehouse.
Right. The point is, I think, when it comes to a zoo type situation, especially if it's the good zoo, right?
Yep.
Or
the non-intrusive, guided, expert access.
If it's a non-evil animal caretaking place, right? I would encourage people who can afford to do so to get whatever the deluxe experience is for two reasons, right? Number one, you'll have a better, fancier experience, getting closer to animals, experiences that other people aren't going to have, something memorable. It's worth your money. And two, if it's a good place, they need more money to help take care of the animals.
Yep.
And that's a way that you can give them more money.
And it's not like we were messing with the fairy penguins. We were sitting silently with night vision goggles, watching them from the distance.
Yep.
Oh, so one last thing. The listener pointed out the Père David deer, the little guy, survived being wiped out in China because some rich European duke bred them from a small population from the Berlin Zoo and later reintroduced them into China.
Is that what the world's smallest deer species?
I forget which deer is which. I'm looking up what that Père David's...
It's a poodoo fawn, the world's smallest deer.
Oh, no, Père David is a gigantic. It's a totally different deer.
Yeah, this is the...
Oh, those are the guys with the really thick... Okay, the really thick... I see this guy. Look at him.
It's a poodoo fawn.
The thick antlers.
PUDU. It is categorized as vulnerable. But yeah, it's a really tiny deer. It's smaller than most dogs. It's like a foot long, basically.
All right, I think it's time to get dinner and then go play some Fortnite. Stop the stream.